One of my students actually discovered this song called Heartbeats just on Newgrounds about 7 or 8 years ago, and the person whose username it was Broove, who was credited as the composer. And it's just a really pretty piece. I've just arranged it a little bit. I've changed a couple of the notes here and there. It's actually quite similar, like the original one that I heard was already quite similar to a Morrowind theme. If you look up Morrowind Explore 3, it's got kind of a similar riff in that chorusy part. And it just turned into one of those pieces that a lot of my students really liked. When they heard other students playing it at concerts and things, they'd always ask what it was and ask if they could learn it too. So it just gradually just made its way around, and I've been teaching it for probably, since then, like 7 or 8 years. And it's just a really nice, gentle piece. It's pretty simple on paper, like there's not a lot of notes, and it's not too busy, but there is a lot of technique and a lot of subtlety that you can bring out of it. And I just think it's really pretty. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the sheet music here. There's not a lot that I need to really go through. The finger numbers there are self-explanatory. One is thumb in both hands. So one is thumb in your left hand, one is thumb in your right hand. We have 3 beats per bar, 3 crotchet beats per bar. And I'm going to be talking about ebb and flow a little bit. So ebb and flow in music refers to giving the piece a little bit of spirit, a bit of expression, like a little bit of character, a little bit of life, in that it doesn't sound too monotonous, it doesn't sound too grounded. A lot of that comes down to how you play it with the timing and a little bit of dynamics as well. So the dynamics will go up and down a little bit. Your tempo might rise and fall a little bit, in moderation, of course, so it still makes sense. You don't want to just rush through parts. But so it kind of grows, it really breathes. That's what this piece is all about. So dolce means sweetly. So we want to play nice and smooth and sweet. Keep an eye out for the dynamics. We will be starting pianissimo, very soft. And we have our first phrase here, spanning from the left hand through to the right hand. So we don't want to hear a big gap in between these two notes. It just goes seamlessly from the left hand right through to the right hand. So you shouldn't really hear too much of a break. If you have your pedal held down, you shouldn't hear too much of a break anyway. So our pedal markings here, our foot goes down with this note. It holds for the entirety of this line, and then we lift it up and put it back down again when we play this note. So on our first 2 pages, we have a couple of bars that are just empty, but don't just speed right through them. A lot of students will do that. They'll get to these bars and then boom, they're just straight into this next bar, rushing in. Let them really hang. They're supposed to be there to capture the ambience. They're really there to just hear the echo and the reverb of all of these notes that we've played. These bars are for the pedal. So the pedal's just going to be holding on to those notes. It's going to dissipate a little bit as the notes die away. We just want to hear that. So all you need to do here is just count to 3. Just count to 3, and then you start your next bar. So let it really hang. Make sure you get 3 full beats. Page 2, kind of the same idea. We still have these empty bars for the pedal, of course. We're upping the speed just a little bit. We do have slightly longer notes in this section anyway, so it won't be too obvious if we speed up the tempo a little bit. We've got a few crescendos, gradually getting louder, a few decrescendos, gradually getting softer. So that's all part of the ebb and flow as well. That'll fluctuate, it'll go up and down. Now, these 2 notes are actually part of this section. So they're pick-up notes. They're picking us up and pushing us into this next section. So they're on the off beat. This beat will have the actual accent. These are just leading us in. So again, I like to raise the tempo a little bit here. This is where the song really starts to come alive. So we've got all of these notes, we've got all of these phrases, the left hand's doing more. There's no long breaks. There's no more long pauses. It's very energetic. It's very lively. Con brio means with spirit. And that's really what we want to bring out of this. We want to use a little bit of ebb and flow to bring this little part alive. It's very much, I suppose you could say it's like the chorus of the piece. So we go through to our last page. This page here, we have a lot of repetitive notes in this little pattern. and it's a repetitive rhythm as well. And what we want to be careful of doing is we want to not make it too monotonous, and we want to make sure it's not too jagged and not too robotic, because it's very easy to accidentally fall into that trap. If we play it as written, we're just going to get 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. If we play it delicately, so delicato is delicately, and rubato means freely. So that's more talking about the timing. The timing's a little bit more free. You can stretch some notes. You can stretch the timing a little bit, slow it down, speed it up a little bit. Let it really flow, really freely. Play around with your accents. Try not to make this sound too samey. Want to change it up a bit. Use your dynamics, use your timing, use your accents, and I'll show you some more of the practical techniques on how to play this part well. Writ on second playthrough is talking about the second time that we play this section, because we're going to have a repeat. So I'll just talk about the repeat for a sec. We get to this part and we repeat right back to bar 28. There's our other repeat here. So that leads straight into this section. So we'd play all of this page, and then we'd play all of this page again. And the second time we've played it, so after we've done the repeat, we'd play these 3 bars, and then we'd skip straight to our second ending. So we want to jump straight from there to there. On the second playthrough only, we ritardando, gradually getting slower. And then as we get here, we have molto rit. Molto means very. So then we're getting very, very slow. Again, as we come through here, this really dies out very, very, very slowly. We have a little fermata here. That's also known as a pause. So we're holding onto this note very, very long, and then finally dropping off onto our last note there. I want to talk about hand positioning just for a second. So in pages 1 and 2, the left hand's going to be fairly rounded. So your fingers they just have a slight curve in them. Nothing really too low. Don't have your wrist low. Don't have it too high. Just relaxed. Just so it can scoot back and forth easily between that A and F. On pages 3 and 4, it will be making more of the octave shape. And you need a fairly low hand. So my wrist is kind of just flat and straight. It's not up, it's not hanging down. Don't hang off the keys. Just want to be fairly straight, and a slight curve in your index finger. That's really all the left hand has to do in the whole piece. It's either doing fifths or it's doing those octave shapes. The right hand is going to be a little more curved overall. Still have your wrist just fairly straight out from the keys, not high, not hanging off. And just flowing from one finger to the other to create those nice phrases. So in our page 3, I actually use my wrist quite a lot to bring the momentum across. So it's more going left and right in this rounded feel rather than up and down too much. It stays in the same position, it's just I'm rolling it left to right, especially on page 4. I'm using my wrist to create a bit of momentum to kick into this C, because the C is going to have the main accent. The C is on the first beat of the bar. A is on the off beat. It's always on the and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. You don't want the ands to be too loud. So that's how you can bring out your accents a little bit. Or if you want to bring up the dynamics, just put a little bit more weight into them. So you put a little bit more follow through into the notes. When we're playing pianissimo, just like at the very beginning, Especially with the left hand, what you want to do is get really low, really close to the keys, and just kind of find that point where the note starts to engage. So what I'm doing there is actually cushioning the blow. I'm not hitting the note straight on and just following it straight through with all of my weight. I'm actually sort of crouching into the note a little bit. And sponging the note down. You really sponge the notes down a lot. Right hand, you can do the same thing. So I'm only really trying to push the note down a little bit. I'm not hitting it with all my weight all the way down, cushioning it down. And I'm sort of half starting to engage it just before and then following it through. It cushions the blow. If I want to bring the dynamics up, all I'm going to do is just push a little more into it and push it all the way as low as I can go onto the note. But other than that, to play this piece well, you just really need to play nice and smooth. So just watch out for all of your little phrases. Make sure they're all nice and connected. So to start off with, what you want to do is put your right hand into an A position. So you've got your thumb on A and one finger per note. Left hand is also in A position and it's right near middle C. So we want to find the A. That's just 2 below middle C. So that's middle C there. I want to be on that A there, and right hand's here. So they're pretty close together. You can keep an eye on what they're doing. And we want our first phrase to be unbroken. So even though we're going from one hand to the other, we want it to sound like it's one hand. So there shouldn't be any kind of break in between the two sections. And we're just going to hold the pedal down the whole time as well. That's going to help a little bit as well. We're going to be playing very softly. And we're holding 1, 2, 3, new pedal. 1, 2, 3. Right hand's going to tuck. So it's just a little tuck. You shouldn't feel like you've moved your wrist up or down or anything like that. And don't bring too much momentum into it when you do the tuck. It's on the offbeat. So the E actually has the accent. That's the one that's on the first beat of the bar in bar 8. Then we just move back into our normal position after we've tucked. 1, 2, 3. Bring it up and drop it down. Second page. 2, 3, hold, 2, 3. Bringing up the dynamics, dropping them down. 2, 3, 2, 3. Building them up more. And then dropping them off, moving to D position here in the right hand. Just walking right up. And getting softer and softer as you go. So I'll just go from bar 20 for a second. So while you have these rests, just move your hand. And get softer and softer as you go out. These last two notes in bar 27, they're going to lead us into bar 28. So they're just pick-up notes. They're just going to lead us right in. This is where the tempo comes up a little bit. We want this to be very nice and lively. You know, we want to have a lot of expression in this area as well. So what we're going to do with the right hand here, walk it up, stay in this, it's like an F position. And all we want to do is move our thumb over to sit on E. So we're not going to use F. So this is our hand position here. Just miss the F. So we're walking up from our middle. Then we're going to move over, fourth finger gets C, and we stay in this position. So we just finish kind of in this G position here. So from bar 39, we're just kind of stretching up to get our fourth finger on that C. So I want to talk about the timing real quick in this section. So I'll just drop it into bar 28 from the beginning. We've still got 3 beats per bar, but we get these in between notes. We get these little quavers. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. And 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. So all these little quavers in between. And 3. 1, 2, and 3. They're just in between notes. They're quite quick. They don't need an accent. They're just sort of slingshotting your hand, usually to your fourth finger, sometimes to your third. And we want to bring that momentum with us to make it smoother, to make the accents a little bit more natural as well, because we get an accent here, accent here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So the in-between notes are on the off beat. The and beats are the off beat. 1, 2, and 3. So only beat 1 should have like a heavy accent. Everything else just smooths in between. So on our last page, the right hand is in this A position. So we want to make sure we play this delicately. We want to play around with the timing, the accents a little bit, so it's not just completely. You know, you don't want to play with flat fingers, but rounded fingers. And I'm using my wrist to go left and right a little bit. Sort of like a little seesaw. So I'm just leaning from one note into the other. I'm not playing my fingers individually. They're leaning into one another. When you put the left hand in as well, it's easier to swell the timing and sort of play off both hands. Swell the timing, get a bit faster, a bit slower, a bit faster. So I'll show you the left hand. It is doing the same thing on pages 3 and 4. It's just doing an octave shape. I'll just switch views so you can see it. So the left hand's just in a very open octave position. So we want to make sure we're just on the tip of the notes here, just on the edge with your pinky, especially if you have smaller fingers and you have trouble reaching octaves. Just go right on the edge. This finger here, your index finger, should be straight. If it points straight towards the back of the keys and is parallel with these black notes here, you should land on the right note. Then we're going to move our hand as a whole. So we've kept the same position. And we want to move our hand as one shape. What you want to avoid doing is building it up each time. much margin for error. If you have the right shape to start with, just pretend you're going to play it as a chord. But instead of pressing them all down, you just separate them one at a time once they're there. Because really all you're doing is just jumping from A to E, and then you're just plussing one each time. Plus one, plus one, plus one, plus, plus, plus. And each time you're just tapping your pedal, so pedal goes down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So when you put your hands together, it's a little bit syncopated on page 3, so that means some of the notes in the right hand are going to be playing on the off beat, which are going to be playing in between some of these notes in the left hand. So they start together here after the pickup notes. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3. So the little quavers, 2 and 3, they're just going in between these two, in between beats 2 and 3, because the left hand is all 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So anything that's on the and beat is going to go in between one of those notes. 2 and 3. So you really just want to run over this quaver, because this is going to be on beat 3. This is beat 1, 2. So you're really just trying to match those up. Just run over it. Page 4, this is where we're going to play around with the ebb and flow a little bit. To bar 28. You can play with the ebb and flow here as well, faster, slower. And then on the last playthrough here, you can do what you like with the dynamics. I've just put in a few crescendos and decrescendos just to give you an idea of what you could do. But you can add your own if you like. So this is our second playthrough. I'm going to slow down, die out. Now I'm in bar 60. So I held on to that B with the fermata quite long until I was ready to drop it right out on that very last beat there.